The massive Imperial starship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its sleek purple hull reflecting the distant sunlight. On its bridge, Commander Rex stood tall, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays showing the third planet of this unremarkable star system. "Another primitive civilization," he said, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Their energy signatures suggest they've barely mastered basic space travel." His second in command, Officer Mark, pulled up more detailed scans. "They have colonies on their moon and the Red Planet, Commander. But their ships still use chemical propulsion for the most part." "Hardly worth our time," Rex said, but protocol demanded they make contact before claiming the system for the Empire. They had done this 1,000 times before with other species. It always ended the same way, with submission to Imperial rule. The humans, however, had other plans. Admiral James Walker stood in Earth's main defense command center, surrounded by screens showing the massive alien vessel. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could truly prepare humanity for first contact, especially not with a ship that made their largest vessels look like toys. "Send the greeting package on all frequencies," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Let's try diplomacy first." The message was simple. "Greetings from Earth. We come in peace and welcome peaceful contact. Be advised that we will defend ourselves if threatened." The Imperial ship received the transmission, and Commander Rex laughed. "How quaint. They think they can defend themselves." He turned to his communications officer. "Send them the standard Imperial claim. Inform them their system now belongs to the Empire." The message that reached Earth made Admiral Walker's jaw clench. The aliens weren't here for peace. They were here to conquer. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "their ship is launching smaller vessels. Looks like they're heading for our lunar base." Walker stepped forward, his weathered face reflecting in the command center's windows. "Send them one last warning. Make it clear what they're getting into." The message that reached Commander Rex's ship was different from any they had received before. "Imperial forces, this is Admiral Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. We have fought ourselves for thousands of years. We have mastered the art of war against ourselves in ways you cannot imagine. We've split atoms to destroy cities, developed biological weapons that can wipe out continents, and created conventional arms that can turn armies to dust. We don't want to fight you, but we are ready. This is your only warning. Leave our system in peace." Rex played the message twice, each time finding it more amusing. "They think their primitive weapons can harm us. The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. These humans are nothing special." Officer Mark seemed less certain. "Commander, their message is unusual. Most species beg for mercy or submit immediately." "Because they're smart," Rex said dismissively. "These humans will learn their place. Launch the first wave. Take their lunar base. Show them what real power looks like." As the Imperial shuttles descended toward the lunar base, Admiral Walker pressed a red button on his console. Klaxons blared throughout every military installation on Earth, Moon, and Mars. "All forces, battle stations," he announced, his voice transmitted to every human military unit in the solar system. "This is not a drill. Implementation of Defense Protocol Alpha is now in effect." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching Imperial forces. "May God help us all." In lunar orbit, the Imperial shuttles approached with perfect formation, their crews confident in their superior technology and countless victories. They didn't notice the subtle shifts in the lunar surface, the hidden missile silos opening, or the electromagnetic pulses being calibrated to their shields' frequencies. The Empire was about to learn why humans had warned them to run. Commander Rex would soon discover that his greatest mistake wasn't attacking Earth. It was not taking their warning seriously. Because while the Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, they had never faced humans before. And humans, as they were about to demonstrate, were anything but ordinary. The Imperial shuttles never saw the attack coming. As they entered lunar orbit, hundreds of hidden missile silos emerged from the moon's surface. Commander Rex watched in disbelief as his first wave of ships disappeared in a series of bright explosions. "Impossible," he shouted, slamming his fist on his command chair. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields." Officer Mark quickly analyzed the data. "Sir, they somehow matched their weapons to our shield frequencies. They were studying us while we were scanning them." On the lunar base, General Tom smiled as he watched the Imperial shuttles explode. "Admiral Walker," he radioed back to Earth, "Phase 1 successful. They took the bait just like you said they would." The Admiral's voice crackled back. "Good work. Now get ready for their second wave. They won't make the same mistake twice." He was right. Commander Rex was furious, but not stupid. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "Multiple attack patterns. Show these primitives what real warfare looks like." Thousands of Imperial fighters poured out of the massive warship, their formation perfect, their pilots confident. This time, they used random shield frequencies, making the human missiles useless. But the humans were ready for this too. "Launch the drones," General Tom commanded. Suddenly, the lunar surface opened up again, but instead of missiles, thousands of small, unmanned fighters rose to meet the Imperial attack. "Sir," an Imperial pilot reported, "the enemy vessels have no life signs. They're unmanned." Before Rex could process this information, the human drones started their attack. They didn't try to shoot down the Imperial fighters. They flew straight into them, exploding on impact. Suicide machines. Rex watched in horror as his fighters fell to these kamikaze drones. What kind of species sacrifices their machines like this? The answer came from Earth's orbital defense platforms, which suddenly revealed themselves, hidden until now by advanced stealth technology. They opened fire, their railguns launching projectiles at speeds that even Imperial shields couldn't fully stop. Officer Mark's voice shook as he reported, "Commander, we've lost 60% of our fighter force. The humans, they're using tactics we've never seen before. No species has ever." "Enough," Rex roared. "Launch the ground invasion. We'll take their lunar base the old-fashioned way." But as the troop carriers approached the lunar surface, they faced another surprise. The moon's regolith itself seemed to come alive, revealing hidden bunkers and defense positions. Human soldiers in powered armor suits emerged, their weapons specifically calibrated to Imperial shield frequencies. In the Lunar Base Command Center, General Tom received another transmission from Admiral Walker. "Their main ship is moving into position to support their ground troops. Execute Phase 3. Tom grinned. "With pleasure, sir." He pressed a series of buttons on his console. Suddenly, all the destroyed Imperial fighters and the scattered debris from the battle began moving, pulled by hidden tractor beams straight toward the Imperial warship. Rex watched in confusion as the debris approached. "Raise all shields," he ordered, but it was too late. The debris wasn't just debris. It contained thousands of micro-explosives, which detonated simultaneously against his ship's hull. "Hull breach in sectors 7 through 12. Officer Mark shouted. They turned our own destroyed ships into weapons. For the first time in his career, Commander Rex felt real fear. These humans didn't fight like any species the Empire had encountered. They didn't follow the rules of warfare. They adapted, improvised, and used everything at their disposal. On Earth, Admiral Walker watched the battle unfold exactly as planned. "Send the message," he ordered. Every Imperial communication device received the same transmission. "This was just our lunar defense force. Imagine what awaits you if you reach Earth. Last chance to retreat." Rex stared at the message, then at his crippled ship and decimated forces. In just one battle, these primitives had done what no other species had managed in centuries. They had defeated an Imperial attack force. "Commander," Officer Mark said quietly, "should we retreat?" Rex's mandibles clicked in anger and fear. "No. Call for reinforcements. The Empire does not retreat." He paused, looking at the blue planet ahead. "But we need to warn High Command. These humans, They're unlike anything we've ever faced before. Little did Rex know, this was just the beginning of humanity's surprises. 3 days after the lunar battle, Earth scientists made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. In a hidden facility, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Allen held up a small device taken from a crashed Imperial fighter. "It's their shield generator," he explained to Admiral Walker. "We've not only figured out how it works, we've made it better." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Better? How?" "The Empire uses the same shield frequency for extended periods. We've modified it to change frequencies every microsecond." Dr. Allen smiled. "And we've already started mass production." Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, Commander Rex watched as his reinforcements arrived. 3 more Imperial warships, each carrying thousands of troops and fighters. "The humans will regret their defiance," he told his officers. "With 4 warships, we'll crush their pathetic defenses." Officer Mark wasn't so sure. "Sir, our initial scans missed many of their defensive capabilities. Perhaps we should." "Enough," Rex interrupted. "The Empire does not show weakness. Prepare for full assault." But Earth was ready. Admiral Walker stood in the command center, watching the Imperial fleet gather. "Begin Operation Thunderbolt," he ordered. "Show them what humanity can really do." Across the solar system, hundreds of small, stealthy human ships emerged from hiding spots in asteroid belts and behind moons. Each carried a squad of soldiers equipped with the newest Imperial-derived technology, and some unique human additions. The Imperial ships didn't detect the approaching vessels until it was too late. Using the captured and improved shield technology, the human ships slipped right through the Imperial defenses. "Multiple hull breaches," Officer Mark shouted as alarms blared throughout their ship. "Enemy troops are inside our vessels." Rex watched in horror as his internal security feeds showed human soldiers moving through his ship. They wore powered armor that could match an Imperial warrior's strength, and their weapons could pierce Imperial personal shields. "How?" he demanded. "How did they adapt our technology so quickly?" The answer came in the form of more alarms. The humans weren't just boarding their ships, they were hacking them. Earth's cyber warfare teams, armed with knowledge from captured Imperial computers, began turning the warship's own systems against them. "Life support failing in sectors 3 through 7, an officer reported. "Artificial gravity malfunctioning. Internal defenses are targeting our own troops." In the chaos, Rex received a transmission from one of the other Imperial ships. "Commander, the humans, they're not just fighting us. They're learning from every engagement. Their tactics keep changing." Walker watched from Earth as the operation unfolded. The Empire's rigid battle doctrine was their weakness. They didn't know how to handle an enemy that kept changing strategies. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "Imperial forces are in disarray. Their command structure is breaking down." "Good," Walker nodded. "Launch Phase 2. Suddenly, the human ships began broadcasting on Imperial frequencies, but not with threats or demands. Instead, they transmitted scenes from human history, countless battles, wars, and conflicts spanning thousands of years. "Let them see," Walker said quietly. "Let them understand what they're really fighting." The Imperial crews watched in shock as the broadcasts showed humans fighting humans, century after century, constantly developing new ways to wage war. The message was clear. Humanity had more combat experience than any species in the Empire. Rex stared at the screens, finally understanding. The Empire conquered through overwhelming force and superior technology. But humans had learned to fight through endless conflict with themselves. They knew war in ways the Empire never had. "Commander," Officer Mark reported, his voice shaking. "2 of our ships have been completely taken over by human forces. They're turning our own weapons against us." For the first time in Imperial history, a fleet commander faced a decision that would shake the Empire to its core. Rex looked at his burning ship, his defeated forces, and the endless stream of human battle footage. All forces, he said quietly. Strategic withdrawal. We must warn the Empire. These humans, they don't just fight wars. They live them. They breathe them. And now they have our technology too. As the remaining Imperial ships retreated, Admiral Walker allowed himself a small smile. Send word to all commands, he ordered. Operation Thunderbolt successful. Begin preparations for Phase 2. It's time to take the fight to them. The Empire had started this war expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, one that was now armed with their own weapons, and humanity was just getting started. 1 month after Operation Thunderbolt, the Imperial High Command faced an uncomfortable truth. They were losing the war. In their Grand Council chamber, Rex stood before the Empire's leaders, his once proud posture now humble. The humans don't fight like other species, he explained, showing holographic recordings of recent battles. They have no standard tactics. Each of their units fights differently. They adapt mid-battle. And worse, they're using our own captured ships better than we do. High Commander Blake, the Empire's supreme military leader, watched the recordings with growing concern. How many ships have we lost? 17 warships in the last week alone, Rex replied. The humans, they're not just defending anymore. They're attacking our supply lines, raiding our bases, and disappearing before we can respond. Meanwhile, aboard the captured Imperial warship, Humanity's Dawn, Admiral Walker prepared for their boldest move yet. The massive ship, once purple with Imperial markings, now bore Earth's colors and had been enhanced with human innovations. Show me the target, he ordered. A hologram appeared, showing a massive Imperial space station. Their main fuel depot in this sector, his tactical officer explained. Our spies report minimal defenses. They still don't believe we'd dare attack something so far from Earth. Walker smiled. That's exactly why we'll succeed. Begin Operation Ghost. The Humanity's Dawn emerged from hyperspace looking exactly like an Imperial vessel. Its transponder codes, copied from captured ships, were perfect. Even its crew had learned to mimic Imperial communications patterns. Imperial Station Delta, Walker transmitted, using their captured codes, requesting emergency resupply. Battle damage from human forces. The station's commander responded immediately. Understood, Commander. Proceed to Docking Bay 3. But as the ship approached, smaller vessels hidden in its shadow broke away, each carrying teams of human special forces. While the station focused on the warship, these teams attached themselves to the station's hull like remoras on a shark. Inside the station, alarms suddenly blared. Multiple hull breaches, someone shouted. Enemy forces inside the station. The station's commander barely had time to react before his control room door exploded. Human soldiers in advanced combat suits stormed in, their weapons already firing. Years of close-quarter combat experience on Earth had made humans experts at this kind of fighting. Station secured, the team leader reported to Walker. Beginning data download and demolition preparations. Walker nodded. Good. Now for Phase 2. Across Imperial space, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Human forces, using captured Imperial ships and stolen codes, struck dozens of targets. Supply depots, communication relays, and military bases all fell to these precision raids. In the Imperial High Command chamber, reports flooded in from across their territory. High Commander Blake watched in growing horror as more and more facilities went dark. How are they doing this? He demanded. How can they coordinate attacks across such vast distances? Rex, watching the chaos unfold, finally understood. Sir, look at their targets. They're not random. The humans are thinking strategically. They're cutting our supply lines, disrupting our communications. They're using guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. On Earth, in the underground command center, Walker received the final reports. Over 30 Imperial facilities destroyed or captured. Thousands of tons of fuel and supplies seized. And most importantly, the Empire's military communications in disarray. Send the message, he ordered. Across Imperial space, every communication device received the same transmission. To all Imperial forces and civilians, the Empire told you humans were primitive. They were wrong. We've captured your ships, learned your tactics, and improved upon them. Your supply lines are cut. Your communications are compromised. But we offer you a choice. Surrender to human forces, and you'll be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and learn why countless species on Earth went extinct when they fought humans. In the High Command Chamber, Blake watched his mighty empire crumbling. How? He whispered. How did it come to this? Rex looked at the battle reports, remembering his first encounter with humans. We made 3 mistakes, sir. We underestimated them. We gave them time to learn our technology. And most importantly, we forgot that any species that survives millions of years of self-warfare doesn't do so by being weak. The Empire had started this war expecting to conquer another primitive species. Instead, they had awakened humanity's full potential, and now they were paying the price. The Imperial Council chamber had never been so tense. High Commander Blake faced angry representatives from a dozen Imperial colonies, each demanding answers about the war with humans. 3 more supply convoys destroyed this week. One colonial governor shouted, "Our people are starving because of your failed war." Another stood up, waving a datapad. The humans are offering protection to any colony that declares independence from the Empire. They're keeping their word too. Look at the beta system. They switched sides last week, and now they have better defenses than we ever gave them. Blake tried to maintain order, but the damage was done. The mighty Empire was cracking from within. Meanwhile, on the captured Imperial fortress world of New Terra, Admiral Walker met with his command staff. The massive planetary defense station, once the Empire's proudest outpost, now served as humanity's forward base. "Show me the latest intelligence," he ordered. His intelligence chief, Colonel Lisa, brought up a holographic map. Imperial forces are in chaos, sir. Their rigid command structure is breaking down. Junior officers are refusing orders, saying their superiors don't understand how to fight humans. "And the Imperial Academy?" Walker asked. "That's the interesting part," Lisa smiled. "They're trying to copy our training methods, but they don't understand. You can't teach centuries of warfare experience in a few months." In orbit above the Imperial capital world, Commander Rex watched his fleet with growing concern. Once proud Imperial warships now moved nervously, their crews jumping at shadows. Every ship that disappeared into hyperspace might be a human raid in disguise. "Another desertion, sir," Officer Mark reported quietly. "The Imperial Sword jumped out of formation an hour ago." "That's the 5th ship this week." Rex nodded grimly. "They're scared. They've seen what humans do to ships that resist. And those that surrender are treated well. Some even get to keep their commands under human oversight." On a dozen worlds across Imperial space, similar scenes played out. Colonial governors secretly met with human representatives, impressed by their reasonable terms and frightened by their military prowess. Imperial military bases faced mutinies as junior officers, trained in human combat footage, refused to follow outdated Imperial tactics. Back in the council chamber, Blake received the worst news yet. "High Commander," a nervous aide reported, "we've lost contact with the Imperial Military Academy." "Lost contact?" Blake demanded. "How?" The answer came minutes later, as every screen in the chamber lit up with a transmission. It showed human forces inside the academy, but they weren't attacking. Instead, they were teaching. "This is Captain Jim of Earth Special Forces," a human instructor told the camera. "To all Imperial officers, your leaders have failed you. They never taught you to adapt, to think independently, to innovate. We're opening the academy to any Imperial officer willing to learn real warfare. No reprisals, no tricks. Just the truth about combat that your leaders never understood." Blake watched in horror as the footage showed hundreds of young Imperial officers attending these classes voluntarily. They were absorbing human military doctrine like thirsty plants in a desert. In his private quarters that evening, Blake reviewed the latest reports. A third of the Empire's colonies had already declared independence under human protection. Half the fleet was either destroyed, captured, or in hiding. And now even the next generation of officers was turning to humanity for leadership. "Where did we go wrong?" he asked Rex, who stood quietly in the corner. "We believed our own propaganda," Rex replied. "We thought being an empire meant we were superior. But humans never stopped learning, never stopped adapting. While we built an empire, they built something more powerful, a species that could face any challenge and overcome it." On New Terra, Walker received the latest intelligence updates with satisfaction. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Phase 5 complete. The Empire isn't just losing the war, it's losing itself. Time to prepare for the final phase." The Empire had started this war thinking they would teach humans their place in the galaxy. Instead, humans were teaching the Empire what real power looked like, and the lesson was breaking the Empire apart. The war room on New Terra buzzed with activity as Admiral Walker unveiled humanity's boldest plan yet. The holographic display showed the remaining Imperial strongholds, now just a fraction of their former territory. "Operation Final Strike," Walker announced to his commanders. "We'll hit their capital world from 3 directions at once. But this time, we're doing it differently." He pointed to the fleet formations. Each group contained both human and converted Imperial ships, crewed by mixed teams of humans and former Imperial officers who had joined their cause. "The Empire expects us to fight like humans now," he explained. "So we'll give them something new. A combination of human adaptability and Imperial precision, something they've never seen before." On the Imperial capital world, High Commander Blake faced his worst nightmare. The once mighty Imperial fleet was reduced to defending their home system. Most colonies had either declared independence or pledged loyalty to the human alliance. "Status report," he demanded. Rex, now his most trusted advisor despite their past failures, brought up the latest data. "We've lost contact with the outer defense rings. Our remaining loyal colonies can't send reinforcements. The humans have blocked all hyperspace routes with their new mine technology." "How did they develop that so quickly?" Blake asked, though he already knew the answer. Humans had taken Imperial hyperspace technology and, in mere months, found ways to use it that the Empire had never imagined. In deep space, the human-led fleets began their approach. The first wave appeared exactly where the Empire expected, a frontal assault on their defenses. Imperial gunners opened fire, their weapons blazing. But something was wrong. "Sir," an Imperial officer shouted to Blake. "The enemy ships, their formation is changing. They're combining human and Imperial tactics." On his flagship, Walker watched his plan unfold. The first wave of ships moved with Imperial precision, but broke formation like humans, creating chaos in the Empire's targeting computers. Behind them, the second wave emerged from hyperspace at impossible angles, another human innovation that broke all Imperial rules of space combat. "They're trying to adapt," Colonel Lisa reported, watching the Imperial response. "But their crews don't know whether to fight like the Empire taught them, or use the human methods they've been studying." The confusion spread through Imperial ranks like wildfire. Some ships tried to maintain rigid Imperial formations, while others attempted to copy human tactics. The result was disaster. Ships colliding with each other, friendly fire incidents, and complete breakdown of command. "Now," Walker ordered, "send in the infiltrators." Across the Imperial fleet, sleeper agents, former Imperial officers trained by humans, began their work. Defense codes were changed. Communications were scrambled. Some ships suddenly found their weapons powered down by their own crews. Blake watched in horror as his fleet fell into chaos. "This is impossible. How can they be beating us with our own tactics?" "Because they understand them better than we do," Rex replied quietly. They studied our ways, learned our weaknesses, and turned them against us. And their greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to teach others to think like them. The battle for the capital system lasted less than 6 hours. Imperial ships either surrendered or were disabled by their own crews. The mighty defense stations, pride of Imperial engineering, fell silent as their operators accepted human terms. Walker stood on his bridge, watching the Imperial Palace through the viewscreen. "Send the final message," he ordered. Throughout the capital, every screen and communication device displayed the same words. To the Imperial leadership, your empire has fallen not through force alone, but through the power of adaptation and understanding. Surrender now, and help us build something better than an empire. Resist and face extinction. You have 1 hour to decide. In the Imperial Palace, Blake looked at Rex. Did we ever have a chance? Rex shook his head. No, sir. We thought we were the greatest power in the galaxy because we conquered others. The humans became the greatest power because they learned from everyone, even their enemies. Especially their enemies. The Empire had started this war thinking they would add another species to their collection of conquered races. Instead, they had found the one species that could not only beat them but teach others to do the same. 1 year after the fall of the Imperial capital, the galaxy had changed forever. In the Grand Hall where Imperial leaders once plotted conquests, Admiral Walker stood before representatives from every world in former Imperial space. "The war is officially over," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Today we sign not a treaty of surrender, but a pact of cooperation." Former High Commander Blake, now serving as the transition coordinator, stood beside him. The past year had aged him visibly, but there was a new wisdom in his eyes. "We learned the hard way," Blake addressed the gathering, "that true strength isn't in conquering others, but in learning from them. Humanity taught us this lesson, and many more." The new Galactic Council chamber looked different from its Imperial days. Gone were the towering thrones and symbols of Imperial might. Instead, representatives from all species sat as equals, with Earth holding a seat just like any other world. Rex, who had helped broker the peace, watched from his position as military advisor. "Tell me, Admiral," he asked Walker quietly, "did you plan this from the beginning? To not just defeat us, but to change us?" Walker smiled. "Honestly, we just did what humans have always done. Adapt and survive. The change in the Empire, that came from within, once your people saw there was a better way." Across the former Empire, the signs of transformation were everywhere. The Imperial Military Academy, once a symbol of rigid doctrine, now hosted the Galactic Defense Institute. Here, officers from all species trained together, combining the best tactics and technologies from their cultures. "Watch this," an instructor told a mixed class of human and former Imperial cadets. The holographic display showed footage from the war. Both sides made mistakes, both sides adapted. This is how we learn. In orbit above the capital, the combined fleet demonstrated the new reality. Ships of Imperial design now flew alongside human vessels, their crews mixed, their tactics a blend of disciplined precision and creative adaptation. Colonel Lisa, now heading the Joint Intelligence Service, reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. "The last holdout Imperial forces surrendered this morning," she told Walker. Even they couldn't deny the benefits of cooperation any longer. But perhaps the most significant change was visible in the massive library complex newly built in the capital. Here, the history of every species was preserved and shared. The Imperial section now included a special wing dedicated to the war that changed everything. A group of young aliens gathered around a human historian as he explained. The Empire thought war was about power. Humanity knew it was about adaptation. That's why Earth's history contains thousands of different fighting styles, strategies, and philosophies. We never stopped learning, never stopped changing. In his private office, Walker looked at a piece of twisted metal on his desk, a fragment from the first Imperial ship they'd ever encountered. Funny, he said to Rex, who had become an unlikely friend. How different things might have been if you'd just listened to our warning that first day. Rex clicked his mandibles in what had become his version of a chuckle. Would you believe me if I said I'm glad we didn't? The Empire needed this wake-up call. We'd grown stagnant, arrogant. Humanity didn't just defeat us. You freed us from ourselves. The final ceremony that day was brief but powerful. Representatives from every world, including Earth, signed the new Galactic Charter. Its first line read, "The strength of civilization lies not in dominance, but in diversity, not in power, but in wisdom, not in conquest, but in cooperation." As Walker left the chamber, a young Imperial cadet stopped him. "Sir, one question. Everyone says never underestimate humans now. But what should we remember most about your species?" Walker thought for a moment. "Remember this. Humans didn't become strong by being the best at fighting. We became strong by being the best at learning, even from our enemies, especially from our enemies." The Empire had started this war thinking they would teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy a better way to exist, and that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come. The end.